You see a stock jump, and you immediately think you know why. AMD is up today. It must be something big. New GPU launch, earnings beat, competition news, analyst upgrade. There has to be a reason. But here's the thing about that instinct. It's usually wrong in the way that matters most. When a stock moves, especially a company as visible as AMD in the chip and data center space, your brain wants to connect the dots. It's a survival instinct. Pattern recognition feels like understanding. We evolved to spot causation quickly. And that same mechanism that kept our ancestors alive now makes us terrible at reading markets. So let's start with the strongest case for why AMD would move up today. Because it's important that you understand these drivers aren't imaginary. The obvious reasons are actually good ones. AMD competes directly with NVIDIA in the GPU market. Any news that positions AMD better, whether that's a new product announcement, a design win with a major customer, an earnings surprise, or even sector-wide momentum in AI and data center spending, would absolutely move the stock. These aren't conspiracy theories. They're legitimate market drivers that move billions of dollars every single day. A single design win from a major cloud provider could be worth hundreds of millions in revenue recognition. An earnings beat on data center margins could signal that AMD is finally capturing meaningful share from NVIDIA. AMD also has significant exposure to the data center build-out, which has been the primary driver of chip stocks across the entire industry. So if you heard today that cloud providers are accelerating their infrastructure spending, or that AMD won a key design with Amazon or Microsoft, or that their data center revenue beat expectations, that would absolutely explain an up day. Same if there was an analyst upgrade from a major firm, or insider buying from executives, or a short squeeze, or new licensing agreements with partners, or any of a dozen other legitimate catalysts that happen all the time in this space. These aren't made-up scenarios either. Any one of them could justify a meaningful move. That's what makes this interesting, because here's where this breaks down completely. When I looked at what actually drove AMD's move today, there's something unexpected. We don't have a clear catalyst. No major announcement jumped out. No earnings surprise that I could pin down. No sector-wide news that moved AMD more than its competitors. No insider transactions. No analyst notes from major firms, which means one of two things is happening. Either the market knows something that hasn't been reported yet, which is technically possible in the moments before news breaks, or in the quiet accumulation of information by institutional money with better sources than we have. Or, and this is statistically the more likely scenario, AMD moved today for reasons that don't reduce to a single headline you can read and understand. Maybe it was algorithmic trading rebalancing across chip stocks. Maybe someone's automated system triggered a buy signal at a certain price point. Maybe it was profit-taking after a run in a different sector that freed up capital to rotate into semiconductors. Maybe it was international money moving between markets based on currency moves or regional tech valuations. Maybe it was $100 million option trade that forced market makers to hedge their exposure, creating buying pressure in the underlying stock. Maybe it was index rebalancing. Maybe it was momentum chasing. Maybe it was just liquidity flowing the way liquidity flows on any random day, when millions of traders and algorithms are making simultaneous decisions. This is where most financial content gets it fundamentally wrong. If a stock is up, content creators immediately retrofit a story onto it. They find an article tangentially related to the company or sector and present it as the reason. Confirmation bias at scale. It feels satisfying. It feels like understanding. But it's not. It's a story that sounds good in a video format, and it's completely backwards from how real markets actually work most of the time. But here's what I found that actually matters. AMD closed today at $514.39. That's the number. Now zoom out 1 month. AMD opened August at $529.14. So month to date, despite today being an up day, AMD is actually down 2.79%. Over the same month, the stock has swung between a low of $424.03 and a high of $561.47. Do you see that? That's a $137 range. That's a 32% swing in a single month. More than half of that entire range. That kind of volatility tells you something far more important than any single day's catalyst ever could. It tells you the market is uncertain about AMD's future. It tells you something about the structural uncertainty in the chip market right now, or something about tech valuations more broadly, or possibly all three at once, creating a perfect storm where nobody actually knows what the right price is. So when AMD is up today, the honest answer isn't because of X news. The honest answer is, AMD moved today like it moves every day in a context of real uncertainty. The month-to-date picture, down nearly 3% with a $137 range, a 32% swing. That's the actual story. That's the signal. That's what matters for your money. Because if you're looking at a company like AMD and you're thinking, why did it move today? You're asking the wrong question. You're treating today's move like it's information when it's mostly noise. The better question is, am I comfortable owning this stock given its fundamentals, given the competitive landscape against NVIDIA, given the data center spending environment, given the uncertainty that's driving these massive month-to-date swings? Because any single day's move, even if we could perfectly explain it with a brilliant analysis and a crystal-clear catalyst, is just noise in a much larger pattern. And if you can't see that larger pattern, if you don't understand the month-to-date range and volatility and what that uncertainty looks like, explaining today won't help you make better decisions tomorrow. That's the insight that matters, not which news drove today, but whether you understand what's really happening underneath.